Welcome in, Saints fans. Good to see you. And good to see this on the screen. 47-10. Look, what can bring a podcaster out of retirement? An offense that comes through and, I'll be honest. You're going to open up this show with me being the big head because fans of this show remember going all the way back to last October. I was calling for Clint Kubiak to be the offensive coordinator of the New Orleans Saints. I felt that he would provide a fresh perspective and add dynamics with Taysom Hill, Alvin Kamara, etc. to this offense and could potentially put this offense back into the top 15, top 10 conversation where it rightfully belongs. And yes, before anybody says anything, yeah, it was the Panthers. I don't give a You win 47-10 against anybody in the NFL, you are a competitor. You are a threat. You are a danger. New Orleans Saints have just as much chance to win the NFC South as any other team. And while it is one game, and while it is a game against a team that you should have beat, we're talking about a whoop down. We're talking about a beat down. We're talking about world star hip hop. Throwback to the Gen Zers and the millennials who know what the heck that is. We're talking about the Saints being a good football team. But you know what we're going to do? We're going to go through it even-keeled, solid-minded, something, words, hard. We'll see. We're going to go through it stat by stat, quarter by quarter, and then, of course, we get to the comments of y'all out there. So it's good to see you. It's been a while, Who Dat Nation, but what a day to come back to. So first quarter, I'm going to highlight some of the offensive stats, and I won't be able to put these on the screen, but you can just listen to them. Alvin Kamara started the game, 7 carries, 48 yards, the longest 17, with Taysom Hill contributing 4 for 28. So we saw 11 attempts versus 8 pass attempts, very balanced, very run-heavy to set up some of the big passes later on. A huge deep pass to Rashid Shaheed, first drive of the game. By the way, New Orleans Saints win 8 drives in a row, 8 scores. Let me know the last team that did that. Oh, it was the Saints when they had a competent play caller in Sean Payton. Good to know. Rev, you're a genius. Then you had the amazing Derek Carr. Yeah, today he's amazing. And if you want to be a Derek Carr hater, you better wait till Tuesday because today and tomorrow are Derek's day. He went 5 for 8 in the first with that 85 yards and 2 tutties, getting guys like Rashid Shaheed and Foster Moreau on the scoreboard. Who expected it? Not you, not me, but we're happy about it. They also were 2 for 3 from third down and 1 for 1 in the red zone. In fact, New Orleans Saints primo in the red zone today. We can say, but it was the Panthers. All you want, I really don't care. You beat an NFL team 47-10. How about we talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers with a backup quarterback beating the Atlanta Falcons 18-10. Okay, well, we did that, but with 30 more points. What's more impressive? I'll rest my case. Moving on to quarter number 2. Let's just do the whole first half was amazing. The whole first half. Let's do the first half. First half, the New Orleans Saints finished with over 100 yards rushing, 109 at 6.4 a carry between Jamal Williams, Taysom Hill, and Alvin Kamara. Derek Carr is going to finish the first half 12 of 16. That's 75%. Very, very numberish of another man that we're not going to mention yet. But hey, if Clint Kubiak can make this man even look like the shadow of the one-armed, right-arm wonder, well, who knows? But he did have 3 tutties in the first half. Only took 1 sack. Offensive line doing better than expected. Rashid Shaheed was your leading receiver. We actually finished the game with that. Had 2 receptions for 60 yards. Defensively, Alontae Taylor, 2 sacks in that first half. You also had an interception from Harris. But more importantly, you actually start to see Chase Young really contributing. It still feels like that front 4 is not there with pass rush. You want to see more from it, but Chase Young definitely had a little bit of a, okay, in that first. They finished the first half 2 for 2 in the red zone. Third quarter, Alvin Kamara had gone 15 for 83. You can tell they start rotating in other guys between Jamal Williams, Taysom Hill. You're even going to see backup running back coming through in the fourth quarter, but I like that. I've always thought that Alvin Kamara, not necessarily a snap count, but a touch count. We talk about him wanting to have 15 to 20 touches every single game. That gives him the ability to stay dynamic, stay healthy, and still contribute, which he did today with over 100 yards from scrimmage, which was his 50th time to do that in a Saints uniform. As you can imagine, one of the greats. Moving into, shout out to Juwan Johnson, who had a big TD catch today and nice play. And then Mario Davis actually registered a sack today, for those that didn't know, but New Orleans would get that. Moving into the final fourth here. Now I can actually get back into the chat. Missed all of y'all, haven't got to see you, but it's good to see you. let's talk about how the team finished on offense. Statistically, Alvin Kamara obviously finished your day. Didn't really do anything in the fourth. That's fine. You had a massive lead. And last thing we need is shades of Michael Thomas, where we're trying to win things in the fourth quarter or run up leads in the fourth quarter, and a star player gets injured, thus ruining their Hall of Fame career. So I actually appreciate that. Jake Haener got a little crazy, tried to decide that he was going to be Rambo, but it ended up being okay. I'm okay with sitting guys back, letting them rest. Jamal Williams came through, got a nice tutty there in the fourth quarter. Difference between Clint Kubiak offense and Pete Carmichael offense. Clint Kubiak gets Jamal Williams in the end zone in the first game of the season. Pete Carmichael doesn't, and they have to literally rig up a very controversial play to make it happen. What a difference that makes. What a difference. So Derek Carr finished the day 19 for 23, only 200 yards, which is okay. I've always said if Derek Carr can consistently get me 200 to 250 and 2 or 3 tutties and be efficient, that's fine because Clint Kubiak's going to handle everything else. Leading receiver stayed Rashid Shaheed, but Foster Moreau did a really great job from the tight end position with Alvin Kamara having the most receptions. Again, shades to that classic West Coast offense that we knew New Orleans for so many years. Moving on to the defensive side of the ball, Alontae Taylor really had a game, especially with Marshawn Lattimore going out in the second half with a hamstring pull. We'll see what that is as it goes throughout the week. Hopefully it's not a severe one. Hopefully he's not missing much time, but he did leave the game. So you got to see the rookie in Kool-Aid McKinstry. You got to see Alontae Taylor. And, of course, Paul Debo having a very, very good game. Paul Debo, who finished the NFL last year, 3rd overall in pass deflections, gets you one today, and nice tackles for losses and sacks for Alontae Taylor. But I will say, if I do have to critique one negative about this game, got to see the front four start connecting, start doing more than just collapsing pockets. I'm not saying the same thing to necessarily get worried about, but just because you dominate a win does not mean everything can be good. There are things to critique. Got to see the front four do that. You want to use the argument, hey, it's the Panthers. This is an example of why it's okay to use that argument. You know, you've got to be able to get this, because if you're not having success in the front four, going against better quarterbacks, more quality quarterbacks, you can't be a Saints fan and not acknowledge the fact that there were wide open receivers missed because the quarterback play here was just not very good for the Panthers. Again, not downing the defense. They're certainly looking like that top 10, top 5 format you're wanting, but there's definitely things to take from the offense and defense of this game that can improve. One thing that I don't know if it can improve, because I got to give some love out, is got to be the punt and kicking game. Now, you did have that one penalty on JT Gray. That was a little squirrely, but the punt return game, you saw 60 yards on 3 returns. That's a 20 average. That's fantastic. Rashid Shaheed, who they ended up pulling out of the returns. Again, I like that as a safety precaution. Blake Grupe went 4 for 4 on field goals and 5 for 5 on extra points, 17 points. If you picked up Blake Grupe in your fantasy team, you're probably loving it. Everybody talks about people being homers, but if homers are getting you that many points in fantasy, you better embrace it. Then you had the amazing Rashid Shaheed also with a nice pop-off in kick return. And I thought the punter did okay. Not amazing, but yeah, field position was actually in New Orleans' favors. Not too worried about that. Blake Grupe honestly maybe having the best game of his career, setting himself a career record, or personal best rather, when it comes to the depth of his kicks. Has some great ones. And if you look at the actual scoring list of New Orleans, first thing, 59. Big TD pass to Rashid Shaheed. 57-yard field goal. There's the personal best I was just talking about for Blake Grupe. Then you had Derek Carr, 3 yards to Foster Moreau, followed by 2 more field goals, a 44 and a 52. Those are not easy field goals to make. Derek Carr then getting it to Juwan Johnson. I actually really love that play. We might end up talking about that in further podcasts. We'll see how it goes. For those that don't know, with me working full-time in the gaming sphere, this is going to be something that I want to keep around, but I can't promise we're going to be doing as much open film study. But we'll see how things go. Y'all just have to keep your ears to the grind to hear if the podcast is up, but you can still get it on your iTunes and stuff. All right, then you had finally a field goal by Carolina. Finally in the third quarter, Alvin Kamara gets that TD run. Loved it. Then you got to see the scramble for Young. Very controversial play. I will say one positive on this. I hate that you gave up the touchdown, but number one, absolutely love Paul Debo there forcing the fumble. You see the effort there, and that's what you're wanting to see. Blake Grupe finishing at 39, and then finally Jamal Williams getting him a tutty on a nice 14-yard run. Man, it was good stuff. It was just exciting to watch. You know, I am always been one of those guys who encourage everybody to keep as level as ahead as possible. And you should. It's one game. It's one game against a team that you should have beat. Unless you're Colin Cowherd, who likes to go on his show and say that the Carolina Panthers are clearly superior to the New Orleans Saints, and he believed talent to talent, New Orleans didn't stand a chance. Well, standing a chance Sure looks like a 37 Saints lead to me, but who do I know? I don't know anybody. I'm just here hanging out with you guys and gals. So that's a monster there. And again, little things that can be better. I do think that New Orleans can be better than 7 for 13 on third down, but keep in mind that in the fourth quarter, they were just running it out. So it was better than the 54% that it shows. But 4 for 4 in the red zone. You're a Saints fan. You have got to like this. You have absolutely got to like this. That was obviously one of the biggest struggles from last year. And I truly don't watch this game and think all of last year's offensive struggles are gone. But oh my goodness, can you not see an improvement? If you don't, you're just being a pure hater. I get it. You can, hey, fun fact, y'all. You can still hate Derek Carr if you hate Derek Carr. You can still believe Derek Carr is not a top 5 quarterback. But if your team can play like this, you can beat any team in the NFL. And I'm saying that honestly, objectively. If you can put up 47 points against even the worst team, I don't care if you're playing the old 0-17 Detroit Lions, 0-16, Detroit Lions from way back in the day, right? If you can put up 47, you are in a good spot and you're playing well. Okay, so there's definitely things to be critiqued. But if this would have been like the Pittsburgh game, not that I'm trying to hate on Pittsburgh at all. I appreciate them taking down the Atlanta Falcons. But they won 18-10, right? They did not dominate, but they won. They relied on mistakes from Atlanta. And, you know, it was not a great rushing day for Bijan Robinson. It was okay, solid, but, you know, not getting that 4.0 mark. You didn't see the success of the offensive line for Atlanta. Kirk Cousins did not have a great day. 61% completion, 2 interceptions, only 155 yards, where Justin Fields outdueled him. And Justin Fields, remind you, is the backup quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, yeah, you can win, but would you rather win like this or win how the Saints did? And if you win like the Saints do, even if you're talking about a team being worse, bad, etc., this is the NFL, another great example. How many players, how many analysts, how many fans pick Cincinnati dropping the home opener to Jacoby the GOAT Brissett coming back to New England and Joe Burrow floundering? Who picked that? This is the NFL. You dominate anybody 47-10. You have every right as a fan, analyst, player, etc. to be excited about that. And there's nothing that you can really say that diminishes the output here. You can absolutely acknowledge that there are things that the Saints could have done better this game. That's to be expected for the first game of the season. But when you put up almost 50, as an offense who hasn't done this really in years, has not had this level of success in years, you have every right to get excited. And if anybody wants to be negative, then you're just being a hater. If the Saints would have won 20-10, I would have been much more on the cautious side. But when you win 47-10, you can beat anybody. The key now will be, can they be consistent? Obviously, that is easier said than done. And I'm not trying to say that the Saints are going to play the Super Bowl in the Dome this year, but I am saying if you can't get excited about this, what can you get excited about? You know, we'll see how this plays. It's one game, but enjoy it for the next 24 hours before you have to flip that script. Now, here's what we're going to do. We do this every time we do the podcast. We're going to get into the comment section, talk about what you think about the game. Share your thoughts, share your excitement, or if you have a legitimate concern, voice it. I do think that you need to see better play from the front four. I will also say that the linebacker crew did not look as quick and fresh as I was expecting, but again, hard to verify any of this without looking at the actual All-22. Broadcast angles are awful. Trey Nelson, shout out to you. Appreciate you supporting Who Dat Confessional. Appreciate you supporting me and my family, and people like you are how I'm able to do more shows, more videos. So thank you for donating to support. It says, welcome back. I'm excited for this team this year. Glad it's honest to haters, even if it's for just a game. Absolutely. Look, the New Orleans Saints do not have an easy schedule. So it's not something that I really want to get everybody too excited about. Why? Well, yeah, you beat the Panthers. Now you go to Dallas. Hopefully you can do the same. But then you got Philly, a legitimate Super Bowl contender, at home, away game, tough division game against Tampa, and then you got to go to Kansas City. Obviously, the first 5 here is a little bit of a gauntlet for New Orleans. Now, if you can come out of that with 3 wins, I think that's a massive, massive thing. I'm okay with losing to Kansas City. I'm not saying I want to lose to Kansas City, but if I could beat Carolina, if I can beat the Atlanta Falcons, that's 2 huge division games and 2 wins. That means I just need to make sure I try to win at least the Cowboys or Philly, right? Looking ahead, very tough schedule. It's not like you can just look at this game and say, hey, Saints are good to go. But you definitely can find things to get excited about. Nicholas Alexander says, it's always a good day when the Falcons lose and the Saints win. Amen to that, brother. Amen to that. Jay Moose says, all three safeties balled out. Big plays by Honey Badger, interception by Harris and Howden. Absolutely correct. In fact, when we were going through the defensive stats, I did not mention that there was a forced fumble by the Honey Badger and recovered the fumble that he forced. So, yeah, you also had 2 interceptions between Harris and Howden. Love to see that. I will say, though, that what impresses me more are the veterans of this team, like Honey Badger, like Cameron Jordan, like Demario Davis, playing at a high level well into their 30s. Now, you still need the younger guys to step up, which is what you saw from Alontae Taylor. I believe you saw some really good rushes from Chase Young. Saw Brzee start to do a little bit better, but I would like to see a little bit more from him, but still solid day in the trenches. And, that's what you want to see as you're a Saints fan. Special team, Anthony Orji dominated today. Really, really good in terms of the special teams coverage. Obviously, special teams coverage units got a lot of work today. And you look at the kick return numbers for their punt returns, there are none, right? It's nothing. It's the Saints dominated. If you look at the kick returns, Saints did a pretty good job. I mean, a 25 average, you'll take that. As long as they're not starting at the 30-yard line, that's a win. So, big positives. Right. Joe says Chase Young looked amazing. I won't go as far as say he looked amazing. There were a couple plays I noticed containment was off. A couple plays that he's a half step behind. At the end of the day, the defensive end position is a game about getting there, not almost getting there. And I don't want him to be the king of the almost sack, but he did have a good game. But I will really want to see him from the actual all-22 angle, see how he's adjusting. The Saints did try to run a lot of twists and stuns. You see them trying to get pressure in, and we'll see if it starts to connect. So I do think that he had a good game, but I wouldn't say a great game until I actually see those numbers popping off. But getting him a couple quarterback hits, he did have 2 quarterback hits. Getting to see Chase Young have some good pressures, that's a positive. We want to see more of that. I'm really happy about it. If you can maintain that coverage and get some of that front pressure to be consistent, you're really going to be able to hopefully contain a better version of a mobile quarterback that you'll see in Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts might not have had the greatest game earlier in the week, but it was enough for the Philadelphia Eagles to win. So he's definitely somebody to worry about, and he's definitely better than what you saw today. So keep that in mind. But that's weeks ahead. We won't worry about that just yet. Lance Lang, great to see, says, I've seen comments saying we beat the Panthers, but we struggled against them twice last year. This is a big step in the right direction. It's a great point. Look, division games are always tougher games because, in theory, those teams know you. Now, the difference is this year is the teams don't know. Like, our division opponents don't know really Clint Kubiak. So you got a fresh offense. Now, they should know Dennis Allen's defense, but they don't know Clint Kubiak's offense. In the same regard, though, what actually makes this even more impressive, if you're the Saints, is just what you said. Last year, the Saints struggled versus the Panthers. Remember, they won, but they had that real close one at the end of the year 2017, and then they did win at the end of the year, but it wasn't a blowout. It's 28-6. Defensively, you did great. Offense was still kind of inconsistent, and that, if you remember last year, that's right when the Saints offense finally felt like they had something. This last month of the game, last month of the season, it was a little bit too late, but that December, they had a nice run, right? But you didn't see this level of domination. Now, Carolina has a new set of coaches as well. So you had people like, I'm gonna call out the man who just talks for the sake of talking, but Clint Cowherd talked about, the Carolina Panthers being a good team, roster, etc. Yeah. But what you saw today from the offense is so nice to see. What you saw from the offense is hopefully something that can be built upon, and just something, I think consistency is going to be the key word that we continue to repeat, because it's something that we talked about in the negative past couple of years. Hopefully that's a positive now. I mean, just the fact that you see Alvin Kamara returning to Alvin Kamara's normal self. The fact that you see Jamal Williams being what you saw him be when he was in Detroit. Jamal Williams, a great change of pace back who can actually go in and score and be a bulldozer in the red zone. Well, what did the New Orleans Saints use him as today? Exactly that. What's wild about Jamal Williams, if you look at the offensive stats, 38 yards and a TD, that literally puts him on pace through one game. If he goes just 9 games, he's going to do better than what he did last year, right? And I was just speaking like small term. The fact that he's scoring, like these are what you saw, because when he was in Detroit, remember, he was never a break it off big run 40, 50 yards down the field runner. He was a grinder, especially in the red zone. That's why he led the NFL in 2022 in rushing touchdowns. Well, if you're going to use him to his best ability, you're not worried about him gashing you for 13-yard runs. You're worried about him wearing teams down, wearing defenses down, and then getting in the end zone, which is exactly how Clint Kubiak used him. So so much of the gripes that I had last year feel like validated and vindicated even because we saw it flip. And again, I will acknowledge it's one game, but man, it was an exciting one game. Back to the comment sections for Mr. Don says the D-line could have been better, but I think they helped Alontae Taylor get all those sacks. Absolutely. Now, we'll also add, it's from a film study perspective. Just from film, there were mistakes made by the Panthers offense. The first Alontae Taylor sack, for example, there was no slide protect called. There was nothing to pick that up. It was just allowed to happen. That's bad offense. Now, you are right. The defensive line opening up things for the blitzers, whether it be Demario Davis, whether it be Alontae Taylor. But at the end of the day, you've got to connect on it. That's exactly what they did. You still, at the same time, need to have the front four be the ones who are your primary sack getters. You don't need every game to be Demario Davis and Alontae Taylor. You're definitely going to see Chase Young, Cameron Jordan, Brian Brzee, Carl Granderson. They've got to pull those numbers. At the end of the year, it's a bad sign if your defensive line is not leading your team in sacks. Last year, that wasn't the case for New Orleans, right? They didn't have the defensive line domination. So just something to look for, not being negative, just something to say, hey, need to see New Orleans improve in this way. That way we don't go into a season relying on our, as amazing as he is, agent with Demario Davis. I mean, he should not be 6.5 sacks, followed by guys like Zach Bond, who, by the way, had a great game in Philly. You need to have consistency. Hopefully get one of these defensive linemen into that 10-sack area. Be so much better. Walt says, a good win. However, next week's game against Cowgirls will really show what the way. Again, that just sounds too negative to me. You can't win 47-10 and then be like, oh, well, don't count it. Yes, do they need to beat the Cowboys? Yeah. I don't feel like there's any extra onus. If they lost to the Cowboys, I'm not saying they will, I don't think it diminishes what you did in week one. Do you want to win every game? Absolutely. But at the same time, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, Chiefs. Oh, well, Cowboys. Like, you win 47-10 against any team in the NFL, you're a good team. Key is, can you be consistently good? But bad teams aren't putting up 47 points, right? They're not. You're just not doing that. Bad teams aren't holding people to 10 points when they built a big lead and basically gave the fourth quarter time away, right? Breach says, based on what you saw, is this offensive scheme easier for Carr to operate in compared to the old system, or is it more because it's the Panthers? Well, number one, there's a clear difference in the offensive operations. More motion, more movement, more play variety, and also, really playing into the strengths of the players that you have. You also had a lot of tendency breakers in this game. That one of them got called out on the show, where if you were watching the broadcast, they're like, hey, they're saying ready, and running it one time and then also making sure that you pass it and change things up, running play action versus actually running the ball. There was a balance there. Yes, the Panthers, I believe, coming into this, were not a great team. But at the same time, if you look around the league, Panthers record predictions had them as a contributing team. Maybe not a dominant team, but there were a lot of people who thought the Panthers were going to be good. Now, I'm not saying that's the case. I am saying that if you're the New Orleans Saints, yeah, you probably should have won. I mean, in fact, the betting line, I think, was like -4 towards New Orleans. And so you gave New Orleans like a 4-point spread there. But at the same time, it's not like the Panthers were not believed in either. The Saints have had nobody believe in them. And if you remember, the Saints fandom got this offseason voted as the least enthusiastic, right? So I think that there's a little bit of fan negativity seeping into what is an amazing win, right? So don't diminish that. Do the Saints have a tough road ahead? Absolutely. The schedule's not easy. It's not a cakewalk. The beginning part of this schedule is rough, where it seems on paper to get better in the second half of the season. First half is definitely the roughest part. That's okay. Take it, one bit at a time. Enjoy big wins. So, Pick and Point says, why do you say we have a hard schedule? We have one of the easiest. Do you mean next few games overall? Specifically next few games, Pick and Ponies. But I will say this. I don't base my evaluation of what is difficult based off like preseason power rankings. When I look at teams, I'm looking at teams who were playoff contenders recently and maintained solid rosters. Dallas is one of those teams. Philly's one of those teams. Kansas City's one of those teams. Tampa's one of those teams. I don't even like Tampa, but Tampa is one of those teams. Doing the second half part of that is a little bit easier, but at the same time, even if the second half of your schedule is easier, but if you went through 8 games, 2-6, you'd have to essentially run the table at the very end of the year. So it is a tough start to the the season. Do you have a better schedule outlook on paper when it comes to the bye week? Absolutely. Those last 6 games after the bye week seem like if this team really was humming, maybe they sweep it. Maybe they go 5-1. Maybe they go 4-2. But it seems like they would be on the positive side of things. But if you go through the first 11 weeks of the season and you win 4 games, it doesn't matter if you can run the table at the very end. So I'm very excited about this one, but that next few games is a little bit of a run. You still respect it. You go into it building off what you did today, and I'm very happy about what I saw today, man. It's hard to be negative about today. So Don says, people just don't like Dennis Allen and Derek Carr. That influences how people perceive the team overall. Just because you don't like someone doesn't mean they're not good. I'll say this about Dennis Allen. I still don't believe Dennis Allen is an amazing head coach. I don't, okay? At the same time, I've always said that Dennis Allen gives you a top 5, at worst, top 10 defense. That dude can turn anybody, including me, into a cornerback. I go right now, and I'll be at least a starting caliber cornerback for the New Orleans Saints. I'm 5'10", I weigh 228 pounds. I'm 34 years old, and I probably run an 8.7 40, and I'd probably somehow end up on a all-pro team because Dennis Allen coached me at corner, right? So the man can create a great defense. He needed to have an investment-worthy general manager, one who is willing to give him offensive playmakers, go and spend that money if they deem they needed to. And then he had to bring in an offensive coordinator who was actually going to run the show and be good at it. We'll see if Clint Kubiak can do that. It's one game. You certainly can't put Clint Kubiak in the best coaches of the year award just quite yet. But that doesn't mean you can't win with Dennis Allen. I mean, the fact that he can give you guaranteed, it seems, a top 10 defense means you're going to win games. Well, let's see how they do against the teams that most people see as Super Bowl contenders, like the Kansas City Chiefs. But I'll be honest as well, I'm not even caring about the Super Bowl. You know, all I care about? Winning the division first. You started that today by beating the Carolina Panthers. That was step 1. That's what matters, right? Number 2, after you win the division, playoffs. You want to do playoff seeding, preferably end up with some type of high seeding for a home game. Then you can start even thinking about Super Bowl. I'm not even thinking about that. In fact, the word is officially banned here on the Who Dat Confessional podcast for at least 2.5 months, minimum. We're not going to look at it, right? That word doesn't exist. If you're talking world championships, clearly you must be playing FIFA because you're not playing with me in football in the New Orleans Saints. We're going to put that off. But we'll say you've seen improvement. You've seen DA go, in terms of how a general manager is going to view this, you saw him go 7 wins, 9 wins. Now they're expecting a playoff berth. So we'll see how this plays out. But if you can't be excited after today, take a deep breath because, man, it's good to see you too, Sam. It's good to see all of y'all. Man, it's not all sunshines and rainbows, but I'm going to enjoy the day for 24 hours. Then we can take a step back, acknowledge the ways that need to improve, such as definitely want to see some improvement when it comes to defensive line performance. Definitely want to see some improvement even from the offense on some consistency, on some decision-making. Definitely want to see more variety. Definitely want to see things get better. But today is a win. TJ, good to see you, my friend. And TJ says, love Derek was jaw-jacking with J.C. Horn. Still wish the Saints would have got J.C. Horn. So, what a good day, y'all. It's a great day when you can leave the Dome with a win. For anybody who went to the Dome, hope you enjoyed all the new festivities, all the new arrangements, all the new updates. And to keep y'all apprised, as of right now, it is 3-0 Tampa Bay against the Washington Commanders. They are in Tampa with Baker Mayfield currently slinging it. So a 3-0 one. So Tampa is definitely still the team to watch out for. Look, Tampa might not be our rivals as much as they want to be. Poor Tampa fans. They're always dying for attention. They want you to notice them so bad. But whether or not there are rivals like Atlanta are, there's still somebody got to watch out for in the division. So got to keep winning the games. Got to keep winning games. As far as the schedule for Who Dat Confessional, I don't really know about film studies and consistent schedule. To be honest, I'm working 70, 80 hours a week with the gaming stuff. For example, I'm going to be out of town for work at the end of this week, so I won't be able to do like a Thursday episode of Who Dat Confessional we were normally going to do. I am going to try to do the show. I might even have pre-recorded episodes that I upload instead of everything being live. I do plan on all the post-game shows like this one being live, so we can talk it out, enjoy it out together, and then we'll see how things look throughout the week, throughout the season. If I can do a film study, I will. Anybody that is following the channel, appreciated. Anybody that donates, never required, but greatly appreciated. More of you that support, the more I can devote to this. But moreover, just want to keep y'all updated. and informed. 30 minutes. That's a good podcast wrap up for a post game. Y'all go enjoy the rest of your day. Hope you have a good one. Who dat? God bless. Catch you on the next one. Deuces. That's me. And enjoy 47-10. Go watch some highlights. It's okay. Enjoy it.